I receive quite a few calls every week from parents wanting help on how to navigate a lot of these challenges that can come with sports. What do I say to my child who had an off game? Am I putting pressure on them by saying this? How can I get my athlete to be more motivated? Or my favorite question, my kid isn't playing. How should I talk to the coach? This episode is for parents who are trying to navigate all the demands and pressure from youth sports. Jen Fry is blessing us with her presence this week and is going to help us talk through some of these challenges that parents face and how to approach difficult conversations better in the hopes of helping their child enjoy their sport more and just overall improve their performance. So, with that being said, Jen, will you please introduce yourself to the listeners, let them hear your voice, give a little sneak peek into your impressive background, and walk them through what you're doing today?
Hi, Georgia Miller. I appreciate you having me on this podcast. I think we're going to have some really good conversation. I'm going to be transparent. A lot of the parents listening are going to clutch their pearls, and I'm just going to ask them to take a deep breath and just sit with what I'm going to say. I'm saying this out of love, empathy, and understanding. And so that being said, my name is Dr. Jen Fry. I come to you from athletics. I was a three-sport athlete in high school. Hall of Famer. I'm just going to say I'm in the Hall of Fame in Yuma, Arizona. And I always tell people one of the kind of interesting things about my high school is that my high school mascot were the Criminals. So I'm a Hall of Famer of the Yuma High Criminals.
That's
Yes.
a good fun fact.
That is, and if people, let me see if I have it. Oh, my mom had actually sent me a patch that has here it is. So in case anyone was wondering,
So
the
there you go.
Yuma Criminals.
I
Yes.
love the mascot. I've never seen that before. That's
Yep.
special.
I'll do it like Instagram. Put it
Yeah.
behind my hand. There we go. So I come from that. So I played sports all through high school. I went to a junior college, then transferred to a 4-year school. So I've had all of these experiences. I was a college coach for 15 years. I coached the gamut of levels. I coached junior college in the middle of nowhere, all the way up to Division 1, playing for a national championship at Illinois. So I've had all the experiences, all the levels. I coached Olympians, right? Like I've done all of those things. And so when I talk about this topic, I talk about from a breadth and a depth of experience and knowledge. And so I want people to understand I'm not just talking about Power Four. I'm not just talking about junior college. I'm talking about all the experiences in between. And so I left coaching in 2015, and I've just kind of mucked my way through ending up being a professional speaker. I also got my PhD in sports geography from what I will say is the best Big Ten school, and y'all can fight me, Michigan State. And so yes,
We're
Michigan
huge
State.
fans, Jen. I didn't know that about you.
Yes, Michigan State. And so currently I have a tech platform as well. So Cordal, we sit at the intersection of group travel and sports tourism. So if you think about whenever you travel for your kids' games, usually it's a cluster of just massive amounts of text messages and emails. We simplify the heck out of that, put that all in one place so you can look up trips in the future and you don't have to just keep texting about everything. And so my professional speaking, I sit at the intersection of conflict and culture, and I talk all about conflict and really help people gain the skills of navigating conflict. Because I think people don't fully recognize is that we've never been trained to learn how to actually navigate conflict and navigate it well. All that we do is we navigate it the way it was done to us or the way we've seen it, which is usually going to be from our families and our parents and our friends. And so we use that lens to navigate conflict. And as parents, then the lens is how I was treated. I might do it the same, or I might try and do polar opposite. And so I really want to help parents dig into how they navigate conflict when their kids are in places of failing, growth, and really learning how to navigate getting to the next level mentally, physically, whatever it is.
So obviously you are very credible for this conversation. And I love that you said that you are coming from a place of love and care.
Yeah.
But I don't want parents to think we're coming at you and attacking
Mm-mm.
because I've never met one parent that wakes up and goes, I'm gonna put so much pressure on my child today. I mean, they don't do it purposely. A lot of the parents I'm working with, they are very curious just in how they can better help support their child. So
Yeah.
the goal of this combo is to give them some tips on how to navigate
Yep.
that conflict better. So, okay, with that being said, what are some of the biggest conflicts, Jen, that you see come up between parents and athletes?
Well, so I think the first thing that I see coming up is what you put the nail on the head of the question of how do I motivate my kid more? My kid is a great athlete. They know how they do this well, they do that well, but they don't want to go to the gym, but they don't want to do this. I see that they can be such an amazing athlete, but they don't do these things. Can you give me tips to motivate them? And my first tip is you don't. You don't motivate them. This is their journey. If they don't want to get up, if they don't want to go lift weights, if they don't want to put extra reps in, then they don't. What I tend to see is that parents project what they think the kid can be on the kid. And it's this idea of if they just do these things, then they will then be the athlete I think they can be. And the reality of the situation is the only athlete they're going to be is the athlete that they're going to be. And the more pressure you put on them and say, because then what we tend to see is the spiral of Georgia, I've spent all this money to send you the lessons and you don't even want to go. And now it becomes about the money. It's not even about their experience anymore. It's about, I'm spending all this money because you said you wanted to do it. And so there was a post in the volleyball moms group, and this mom was saying that she is a single mom and she spent all this money for her kid to play club and all of a sudden decided not to. And she's like, "What do I do?" And we're like, "Baby, you got a contract." She was like, "You're right." She's like, "What I've told my daughter is she needs to get a job and she will be paying that money back." We had extensive conversations before I wrote this check. Does she want to play? She said, yes, yes, yes. And then she decided at the last minute she doesn't. So therefore, she's getting a job to pay it back. That's the appropriate reaction. It's not the, I paid the money, so I'm going to force you to do it, especially when it comes to lessons and all that extra stuff. And so I see so many parents who have the idea of how do I motivate them? And you don't. Baby, you can't even get them to wash their sheets. You can't even get them to fold their laundry. And now you think you're going to get them to be motivated to go run miles and lift hard weight and do hard things? Absolutely not. So that's my number one comment is you don't. You just say, you put in parameters of saying, if I pay this money, this is the expectation, is that you will go and do these things.
So
So
laying the expectations out
yes,
from the start.
yes, yes. Once you've done this, you are going to, once I pay this money, we cannot get it back. So this is what they expect, especially for the next 6 weeks. This is the expectation. And so you're laying that out. And then, like the woman said, this is the consequence. You will now have to get a job to pay it back.
And my parents, I did club volleyball growing up. And what they said, there was never any talk about money. They didn't want to put pressure on me in that aspect. But they said, if we do this, make this long, expensive commitment,
Yes.
you are not going to complain one time about how much you have to travel on the
Yep.
weekends, missing out on friend time, because this is something that you want to do. We are not
Yep.
forcing you to do this. And I
Yep.
think that was a great approach as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I get for parents, when you played, I mean, you're 10, 15 years out, I'm like 30 years out. It was a different time frame. The amount of money, I get it, parents. So, one of the things I did research on is that for like an elite level parent, they will spend for a travel season $20,000 for travel. That's not even paying to be a part of the team. That's just to get to places and to fly in hotels. There is a lot of money, and the one thing I will tell parents is that you have to separate the money from your kid's experience. You have to. Because if the only thing that you see whenever they're doing anything is dollar signs, you are going to have a really miserable experience. Because that's what I see is that I paid all this money. They're not even playing well. I paid all this money. She's not even starting. I paid all this money and then fill in the blank. And everything is tied for their experience to money spent and have a miserable experience if your expectations are met. So you have to separate and say, I understand if I'm paying this money, I can't have any expectations other than they're safe, they're having a good time, they're learning skills, and they're becoming a better human. That's all that you can do.
Absolutely. And I always encourage parents to say to their athletes as well, I love watching you play. I love
Yeah.
supporting you and giving you the resources to do what you love. Those constant reminders help
Yes.
athletes because athletes, what they do is take this expense up in time,
Mhm.
the money and the time that parents are investing, and they twist it and they think,
Yeah.
oh, well, now I have to perform perfectly in order to pay them
Yeah.
back in a sense. It's like this payback syndrome. And it now they're just playing for so much pressure.
Yep.
When parents ultimately that's not their goal. They don't want that for their athlete
Mhm.
to be thinking that way.
Yeah, I will say, I appreciate this conversation because I would say the one gift that my mom gave me, and as we're talking about this, I realize the one gift that she gave me is that she knew nothing about volleyball. And she didn't even try to know anything about volleyball. All she was there was to cheer me on. She did not talk about my passing, my hit. She did not have a clue. And what I tend to see with parents is that I see so many comments of, my kid's not playing this and this. I just want to understand the coach's decision. And I tell them respectfully, you don't have the knowledge base to understand it. You just don't have the knowledge base. You are asking to understand something that they have 10 years in the game or however many years, and you just have a very foundational level. So even if they were to explain it to you, you wouldn't have the understanding and knowledge to understand what exactly it means. And so I see now is that parents have to understand every aspect of every game of every you don't. Just like you said, go and just cheer your kid on. You don't have to be an expert in volleyballology. You just have to go and cheer them on so that they know that they feel loved and supported. And that is the only thing.
That is your role. You can only
Yeah.
parent so many people in this world, however many kids you have. If you wanna coach, you could coach thousands.
Yeah.
Yes, but you can't parent everybody.
Yep.
So really just owning that supportive cheerleader, loving
Yeah.
parent role is the best, and I tell my parents who also coach, they're like parent and coach, I'm like, "You guys have it the hardest because you actually
Yeah.
understand the sport.
Yeah.
You know kind of what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong." So to
Yeah.
try to, like, separate yourself from that can be really hard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you work with any parents, Jen, that are kinda I call them double dippers, that double dip as coach and parent? Are you having conversations around that?
I don't really work with a lot of them. What I tend to see is that their biggest issue is other parents kind of wanting to talk to them and wanting to talk to them about their kids or wanting to talk to them about especially if they coach in the same club that their kids play in, is that the parents wanting to talk to them about a certain coach. Well, is this coach doing this? Why are they doing that? And all that. And that just creates problem. And so I think that's a bigger issue, but I don't talk to any of the double dippers really. I feel like they have a better idea of it.
Well, let's steer into that direction. When parents are wanting to talk to coach and wanting to understand things like playing time, how should they approach that? Or how should they talk to their athlete on how to approach that?
I will say this again, I say this with love and empathy. You never, in the evers of ever, talk to the coach about playing time. Never, ever, ever, ever. And I say that very strongly. And I know the first thing that, someone's going to do is going to clutch their pearls and they're going to say, well, my kid is shy. And if your kid wants to play, they'll talk to the coach. Well, my kid and all of this stuff. And what I tend to see is that a lot of parents, and I just made a video about this, is that they will make their emotion the main character. And here's what I mean about this. Their kid's not playing. So the first thing that they'll say is that I'm really frustrated and pissed off my kid isn't playing. What do I need to say to the coach? So you have made your emotion the main character, not your kids. I've seen some parents who will say, my kid is fine playing sitting the bench and she's cheering, but it pisses me off. So what do I need to say? And I'm like, so it's not about your kid, it's about you. And so parents really have to understand that I am in no way, shape, or form saying that they don't deserve their emotion. They can feel pissed off, hurt, anxious, stressed, whatever emotion. It doesn't mean that your emotion is the main character. And it doesn't mean that you go talk to the coach about your main character energy. It doesn't mean that. What I tell a lot of parents, and they kind of laugh at me, I tell them, you need to journal. You need to go and find a really great journal and you need to pick it and you need to journal. So whenever you feel these emotions coming up, write them down. You should not be a conversation should not be with the coach of saying, I'm really frustrated. My kid isn't playing. What do they need to do? You never, one of the things is that you're teaching your kid how to self advocate. And so when you say kid is too shy or my kid didn't want, if your kid doesn't want you to talk to the coach, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have made this about you. And so the thing is that your goal should be able to get your kid to self-advocate and to walk them through it, to say, I understand this is hard. I understand you're worried about power dynamic. I understand you're worried about retaliation. I get all of that. And I'll be there silently supporting you, but you're going to have to be the person that has the conversation. One
Absolutely.
parent, she started the thread out with, "We need to have an exit plan." So right away, all of us are like, "Exit plan?" Like, it's right, it's like, I don't think a lot of parents realize in their frustration, they use really elevated language. And she was like, "We need an exit plan." So we're like, "W Are they safe?" Well, it turns out her kid was playing JV and varsity. Her kid wanted to be on JV to hang out with her friends, but was pulled up to varsity. So she just had to pick. Like, to say you need an exit plan, all this heightened language, no, your kid just needs to pick. And she was like, "Well, should I schedule a meeting with the AD and the coach?" For what? Your kid just needs to pick. And that's what I'm saying is that you don't need to be having these conversations. This is preparing your kid to. The conversation should have been, "I know you want to play with your friends and you want the reps at varsity, but you're going to have to make the decision." And it's hard, but you're going to have to make the decision. Or another parent was saying, my kid is deciding between being on the team, which is $4,000, or I don't know, sophomore trip that's $4,000 to Disney. What do we do? Your kid needs to pick. Like, the problem is that your kid doesn't want the repercussions of not choosing a decision, or they're trying to make you feel bad, so you pick both. Your kid needs to make a decision. And so many parents are protecting their kids in really, to me, I'll say this, harmful ways, because you're stunting their growth. When
Absolutely.
you are sitting there saying, "I'm not gonna let you pick, I'm gonna make these decisions for you," you're stunting their growth. And it can be hard for parents because you see how this can turn out in the future, and you've gotta let them make their decisions and find out the consequences. And so many parents don't want to, they wanna wrap their kids in bubble wrap, and all you're doing is stunting their growth because they will graduate, they will go on in life to college, trade school, whatever it is, and they're not gonna be able to navigate that. They're not gonna be able to advocate for themselves. They're not gonna be able to set boundaries. They're gonna potentially put themselves in harmful situations because you want to protect them. You do not talk to the coach unless it's sexual assault, like, there's, like, a few things that are like, yes, you have conversations. If it's about playing time, positions, all that, absolutely not. And if your kid here's the thing, if your kid doesn't wanna have the conversation, it's not important enough for them. It's not. And that's okay. But until it hurts enough and they wanna have the conversation, they just have to wait.
Mm. And then the question parents need to be asking is not what do I say to coach? It's how can I help my athlete feel
Yep.
more comfortable talking to coach?
Yep. That is 100% it. What do we need to role play? What do we need to do? But how do I help them? Because here's another thing about it, Georgia, is that if my emotions are so heightened and center stage, how can I help my athlete navigate through their emotions? I can't. I can't be at level 10 with my emotions. I'm devastated, pissed off, blah, whatever word you want to put, and my kid is trying to navigate their emotions. It's not going to, it won't happen. And so it's really important that a parent learn how to emotionally regulate to be able to be there for the kid to navigate their emotions.
I was working with a young baseball player. He was like 12 and he was having a lot of emotional control issues. Like when he struck out, he would slam his bat,
Mm,
throw his helmet. And I was able to go to his game. I was working with him for a few weeks. And so I went to his game and I was just sitting back observing. And the player he struck out and the dad kicked the fence. And I was like, "Oh,
mm,
well, it's not, I don't need to be working with
right there.
I need to be working with the dad."
Yep.
Kids see you. And
Hmm.
when you're responding in that negative, angry
100%.
way, it opens the door and says, "Oh, this is okay for me to respond that way." And if you're getting so
Absolutely.
upset about him striking out, well, that tells him strikeouts are bad, mistakes are bad, I can't fail.
Yeah. 100%. And that's why, like, these parents, when you hear them yelling or coaching their kids, there's a young woman, her name is Ariel Houlihan, and she runs Beta Bay Boys Volleyball Club. And she's mic'd up. Some people love her, some people hate her. She's just very direct. And she was on the court in this one session she showed on Instagram. And I think it's like 13s or 14s. And she's coaching and she's watching this parent consistently coach her kid. And so finally she goes around when the play's over and tells her the mom is like, "Enough," or the parent, I don't know who it was,
I saw
"Enough." You saw that? She was like, "Enough. Stop coaching your kid. Enough." because you're not helping them out. You're not saying like, "You can do this." You are giving direct coaching advice. And of course, what happens then? The kid standing there and looking at the parent every time, looking at the parent every time. No, you have got to find a way as a parent to emotionally regulate so that if the kid does look at you, like you said, they are attaching every facial experience with failure, but they're able to get some kind of reassurance that whatever they do is okay. But you have to emotionally regulate.
And it undermines coach, and then if the
Yes.
athlete can't trust coach, that's gonna hurt their relationship and their
Mm-hmm.
confidence on the court. Yeah, and I think a big one along with that, Jen, is post-game reaction. And I tell parents all the time, your athlete should know exactly what they're getting from you after the game.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
should give them a hug, love watching you play, and where do you
Yeah.
wanna go eat?
Yep.
Especially if a parent's emotions are high and the kid's
Yes.
emotions are high and you guys are just feeding off of it. Maybe you
Yeah.
start talking negative about teammates or
Yep.
coaches. It's not helping your athlete find a solution. If you need to talk some crap about coach, whatever, journal, talk to your
Yes.
significant other about it, but do not do it in front of your athlete. You wanna help your athlete find solutions of, "Well, coach did this. What are you gonna do about it? How
Mm-hmm.
can you move forward, and how can we help you find solutions?" You wanna help them build resilience and work through challenges that way, not elevate it.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem is that the car ride home sometimes can be more miserable for the kid than the game because the parent wants to dissect everything they did, every decision, want to talk coach talk. Let them just breathe. If they want to talk the sport, they'll talk to you about it. But you're forcing it on them again. You are making your emotions and feelings the main character, and they just got to sit and talk. They just got to sit and take it. And the hard part about it is that in some ways you're holding them hostage because if they were to tell a parent, "Mom, I really don't want to talk about this right now," the parent's going to get mad. And so the parent is like holding the kid hostage, and now the kid has to navigate through the parent's emotions when they're trying to figure out theirs versus saying, "Where do you want to eat? I'm so glad I got to watch you play. And if you want to talk about it, let me know." Put on music, put on a damn podcast, put on George's podcast, and just keep it moving. But, like, that's not your time to dissect and give the play-by-play analysis of what they did. It's not in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And parents, we know you are exhausted and tired.
Yeah.
Let sports give you a break. You don't need to be parenting and super involved in their sport.
Yes.
Let that be the thing where you drop them off and you can be confident that they are learning a bunch of skills like communication, teamwork, hard work, dedication, commitment to goals, time management. I mean, they're learning all that stuff in their sport. So drop them off and give yourself a little break from parenting, you know?
So, the one thing I will say is my mom was a single mom, and so I kind of was the latchkey kid who went with different families. My mom probably went to, like, 50% of the games, and I am a super independent person, and I worry that these parents society tells parents that they have to be at everything or they're a horrible parent. "What do you mean you didn't go watch Tommy's volleyball game and instead went to a spa?" "What? You how are Right? Like, Imma call CPS on you, right? There's this idea that if you're not everything that the kid does, you are traumatizing the kid forever, and that is simply untrue, and so I think A, society does that, but then I think B, parents do that to themselves because 'cause they're like, "Well, I just like watching my kid." Don't. Don't. I think about a friend of mine, we were talking a few months ago that years ago he was running a camp in Colorado Springs. It's camp, and the parents plop down their seats, right, to watch their kid for 9 hours a day practice, and he goes up to Scott, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, I just came to watch," and Scott was like, "Have you ever been to Colorado Springs?" And they were like, "No." He was like, "Leave." He's like, "Go and see the city. Go and
Explore.
hike. Go and do stuff. Like, you don't need to be in this gym." And so on the last day, the parent comes and is like, "I'm so sorry. I've done everything. I've seen it all." He's like, "Okay, good." But, like, you should not be going to a new city and automatically you just are going to the gym and watching your kid. Let them breathe. You are doing them a disservice being at everything. They need to figure out how to manage their money, time, and energy without you being around. You don't have to go if it's like, well, they practice for an hour away, Then find the nearest coffee shop, and every Tuesday and Thursday, you drop your kid off and you go to the coffee shop and work. You have got to separate your life from the kid, because what happens is that when you invest every second with the kid, you now don't want them to leave to go to a school that's far away, right? You put pressure to stay home. You stress yourself out. There's no reason. You have got to create some separation. So yeah, it will be a little difficult when they leave, but you're not devastated and having to figure out your whole life, because every single practice you're at, every single event, every single, and you have to teach your kids that parents deserve to have lives as well. And that's okay that you're not at every tournament, because you deserve to have a life.
And it shows them that you are more than just an athlete.
Yeah.
Sports is not just everything. If
Mhm.
you guys go to a cool tournament in Colorado Springs, great. No matter if you played off or amazing that morning, you're going for a hike and trying a
Yeah.
new restaurant that night. Help them transition out of sport. Help them see that you have other roles in your life. Set up some team bonding. Ask them if they want to just hang out with some friends that night. But
Yeah.
that's good for them to see themselves in other roles and use the most of all those travel opportunities if you're traveling for sport.
Yes.
That's cool. That's like a cool
Yes.
opportunity that you get to do.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So this is wonderful, Jen. I know we've talked to summarize a little bit, we've talked about parents, you cannot be the main motivators. I know that's a hard pill to
Mm-mm.
swallow. But no elite Olympian athlete ever made it by their parents forcing them. They
No.
were the ones begging their parents to wake up at 5 a.m. and take them.
Michael Phelps' mom was not pushing that boy into the pool.
No,
Simone
absolutely not.
Biles' parents were not being like, "You better get your ass on that beam." I know that. I guess it
Absolutely not.
wasn't.
Right. Yeah. So you cannot be the main motivator. Do not be the one to talk to coach about playing
No.
time. Help
No.
your athlete do that. Stay calm on the sidelines. You are the supportive, loving
Yes.
cheerleader. That is your role. Yeah. And make sure you have a life too
Yes.
outside of their sport. Yeah.
Yes.
And post game, give them a little cool down period. Ask them if they want to talk about it, but ultimately just help them transition into other roles, other areas.
Mhm. That's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
summarizing, yes.
Is there anything else, Jen, that you would love to add or think listeners, sport parents, athletes would like to hear?
This is all hard stuff we've talked about, and I think it goes against what other parents will tell you, and I say this with respect, don't listen to them, because they're gonna be the one to, what I tend to see that's harmful is that a parent will say, "Well, I talked to the other parents and they're wondering why my kid isn't playing." And I wanna tell you that's a lie, because they're not gonna do it if that means their kid isn't playing. Like, of course, they're not gonna tell you that your kid shouldn't be playing. No one's gonna tell the mom that their baby's ugly, right? It's not. And so when you're trying to say, "Well, these other parents are wondering why," they're not gonna sit and be like, "Actually, Georgia, Jen should be on the bench." Like, they're not gonna do that. So you gotta take it with a grain of salt of what other parents are saying, and you've gotta lead by having your kid be very focused on skill development, not talking to coaches of, "Why am I not playing?" but really shifting to, "What skills do I need to be at to get on the court?" That's the only thing that needs to be focused on. Not, "Well, Jimmy made 5 errors and Sam makes 5 as well, so if Sam makes 5, why isn't Sam playing as well?" Friend, why am I gonna have both of them making 5 errors on there? So, like, you can't look at other players, you just have to focus on what skills does your athlete need to be better at to be field, court, pool, whatever it is. That should be your sole ethos.
How can you help your athlete take more
Yes.
control? That
Yes.
is it. Yes. Awesome. Well, Jen, where can parents and athletes find you?
Everyone can find me on everything Jen Fry Talks. Everything JenFryTalks. All social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that. I just released my first book called I Said No: How to Have Boundaries and Backbone Without Being a Jerk. I highly suggest you read it because it helps you understand how your family navigated conflict and how it has a direct correlation to how you navigate it. It gives you reflection questions, all that. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble in both and paperback. If you want a signed copy with my Herbie Hancock, you can go on my website and pay an extra few dollars and I'll send you a signed copy. But I would say from the feedback I'm getting from people that it's just something that's highly needed to really parse apart how we've learned how to navigate conflict and how we need to get better. So I would say buy the book. It's 9.99 or 14.99. So I tried to keep it reasonable. That's a acai bowl at a tournament.
It's very true.
Like that's all. It's a water at a tournament.
It's 2 Starbucks drinks.
2 Starbucks drinks. So I would just say purchase it, and when you're sitting there waiting for your kid to finish, just read it. It will help you out tremendously. This is hard, and you want to compare your kid to other kids. Stop doing that. Their journey is their journey, especially with the transfer portal. There is always openings at every level. Every level there's openings. And just know you have just got to find the right fit for your kid and not compare them to other people. Because when you compare them, you will potentially put your kid in bad situations to just commit or do things just because other people are doing it. And you don't want that.
Absolutely. And I'll put your book link in the show notes so everybody can find it there. Jen, thank you just so much for this honest,
Yeah.
direct conversation. I think we need to have more talks like this out there. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for being on. I'm excited for parents to listen to it and just to let it soak in, let resonate, and have some good
Yeah.
takeaways.
And
Yeah.
parents, if you have any questions, DM me, message me. I'm cool with that. Like if you're like, "Hey, how do I handle this situation?" Now, I'll be honest. Just be prepared for honesty. But I've had parents that will reach out and ask a question. I had one who tagged me in a post, was like, "Hey, my kid went on this recruiting trip. This is the thing she's done afterwards. She hasn't heard anything." And I was like, "Keep it moving. Like find another place." And so I will give you feedback on that. So just be ready for direct. But it's all out of love. And I see you and your kids do better.
Well, Jen, thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for tuning
Yeah.
in. For one-on-one sports psych training, my email is georgia@rootedsportspsychcoach.com.